Betty Bows time for our next speaker soon, Steve Simpson. I can't believe I said the word Betty Bows. And we're talking about want to survive, then thrive. How to focus on your UGRs, your unwritten ground rules, with one of the top speakers in Australia, Steve Simpson.
Thanks very much, Nadine. It's great to be with you all. And it's a real treat. And I'd really like to thank Speakers Corner, the great people at Speakers Corner, for helping facilitate this brilliant event, which I think I'm really excited to be part of. And I've learned heaps already. Look, I'd like to begin by asking you to reflect, to think back to a time when you were a new employee, and it could have been to a senior position, but you were a new employee to a new organisation. So it could have been senior, maybe not so, but I'd like you to reflect back to that time. Because if you are like most people on this planet, when you were a new person, a new employee, can be senior, there's a fair chance you were quieter than what you otherwise would have been. Why is that so? Well, you weren't consciously aware of this, but you were checking out the UGRs in the team and the company. Unconsciously, you were checking out the UGRs. UGRs, as Nadine has said, stands for unwritten ground rules, which I define as people's perceptions of this is the way we do things around here. So what were you looking for or looking at? And remember, this is normally happening unconsciously, by the way, not confined to work. Any group of people we're confronted with, if we are new to that group, it can be in a social context, in a sporting team, whatever, we will normally be quieter because unconsciously we're tuning into the UGR. So what sorts of things do we mostly unconsciously tune into? Well, we tune into stuff like punctuality. Do people arrive at when they're supposed to arrive? Do they arrive at the death knock, or do they arrive well and truly before the official start time? What about the end of the day? Do people sprint once it's time to leave? Or again, do people stay there for an extended period beyond the official finish time? What about meetings? Does the meeting start at 10 o'clock, or do people saunter in at 10:15? You'll be subtly looking at these things. You'll be looking at stuff like information flow. Do people freely and openly share information, or do they play their cards a little close to their chest? Worse, do they play a game? You have to ask me the right question before I give you the right answer. You'll look at how meetings run and whether people at a meeting contribute. Do people offer ideas at a meeting, or do they stay silent? Is a different point of view ever raised at a meeting? If it is, how's that greeted? You'll particularly look to see what is said immediately after the meeting, the corridor talk that happens after the meeting. So there's probably an infinite number of cues and clues that we mostly unconsciously tune into to form our view of this is the way we do things around here. And you know what? The remarkable thing, and this is truly remarkable, is that these UGRs drive our behavior. We conform, the vast majority of us conform to the prevailing UGRs. It's quite remarkable. Now, I want to give you some examples of UGRs that we've come across in the workplace. And they can include things like, at our meetings, it isn't worth complaining because we know nothing will get done. They can include, the only time anyone gets spoken to by the boss is when something is wrong. Another UGR we've come across is around here, and Jeff would be interested in this one after his fantastic presentation earlier on in this session. But we've come across this one on many occasions. Around here, the company talks about the importance of customer service, but we know they don't really mean it, so we don't really have to worry about it. These drive our behaviour, yet remarkably, they are seldom talked about openly. It is like there's a parallel universe out there. My behaviour, your behaviour is being driven by these UGRs, and yet we never put them on the table. They are never talked about openly. Now, UGRs are not always negative. Those ones I just shared with you were negative, but UGRs are not always negative. So right now, if you're in a positive, dynamic team, by definition, it follows there are positive UGRs. It has to be the case. If you're in an ordinary team right now, by definition, it follows there are ordinary UGRs. It has to be the case. we are human beings. Inevitably, we'll get a mix. We'll get some positive, some less than positive, and some in between. Maybe the biggest question I can put to you during my presentation, my 15 minutes, and Nadine, I'd really appreciate you. I meant to put on my timer to make sure I did stick to 15 minutes. So I really, in a few minutes, will get your help to make sure that I do stick to the 15 minutes only. But maybe the biggest question I can put to you is this. Are our current UGRs a function of luck or chance, or are they by design? Our experience is that in the vast majority of teams and organisations, the UGRs are left to luck and chance, and people wish for or hope for positive cultures. And if they don't have a positive culture, they wish it were different, hope it was different, but really don't do too much to change things. So this is an enormous opportunity, I think, for us to grab a hold of our culture throughout, because it is the UGRs that are our culture. It's a wonderful opportunity to fight for collectively the kinds of UGRs that are going to satisfy two criteria. One, what's going to make this a great place to work. Two, what's going to ensure our success into the future. So UGRs can be positive, they can be less than positive. Sometimes UGRs can be in your face. I don't know if you've ever experienced this as a new person, but have you ever been to a meeting where a new person says something at the meeting they shouldn't have? When I present face to face, I will say to people, what happens in those contexts? And people tell me when a new person says something in a meeting that they shouldn't have, there's either stunned silence, or people will be sitting next to each other and they'll elbow each other on the sly and say, give them time. We think that that's subtle, but do you think that that is not in the face of the new person? I mean, the new person sees that happen once and they know never to do that again. They will shut up from now on, or not go into that territory that they've explored at the meeting. So that's an in-your-face example of a UGR. Another one, I was working with a major automotive company here in Australia. The sales and marketing division were meeting in Sydney. I wasn't even at this meeting, but the whole sales and marketing division were at this conference venue doing a day's planning. Now, the day prior, one of the younger guys on staff in sales and marketing had done something on social media that he shouldn't have. It was a bad mistake. On the day, in front of everyone, the boss of the sales and marketing division, in front of everyone, stands and points to the young guy and says, be careful, young man. Be careful, young man. I mean, it's remarkable. So what's the UGR when that happens? Well, again, when I say this, when I ask this face to face, people will often say the UGR is never make a mistake. My response is I disagree, because I think the UGR here is never get caught making a mistake. Now think about this. This is the sales and marketing division. They're supposed to be agile, creative, trying out new things. Good luck with that if that's the UGR. So UGRs can be in your face, and they can also be subtle, and I would argue no less powerful. Now, over the last 4 or so years, my great friend and business partner, Steph Duplessis, who's following me from Johannesburg, we've been working with McLaren Automotive in the UK. Now, for those of you who are in the UK right now, if you ever get the chance to go to Woking, premises of McLaren Automotive, I tell you, you ought to go there. It is the most remarkable premises I have ever seen. It is truly gobsmacking. I'm not a car buff, well, actually I am now, after having been to McLaren in Woking in Surrey. It is remarkable. When I was there last, I took 187 photos, which I'm going to show you now. So forget the 15 minutes, Nadine, we're going to go for 35 minutes. I'm going to try and share my screen right now, and wish me luck, because I hadn't tried this, but I'm going to give this a go. And it's telling me that I need to open up my system preferences and give Ring Central. I can't do it. So that's a shame there, Nadine, I can't do that. But let me explain to you that the premises at McLaren were purpose-built. There are white tiles in the production plant, no robots. 2 years ago, they were using a new compound in the tyres, which was leaving black marks on the white tiles. So while they attended to that problem, they employed 3 people whose full-time job was to get the black marks off the white tiles. When they had the premises built, they said, we want glass walls in our paint shop. And they go, but it's a paint shop, correct? We want our customers to be able to see their cars being painted, should they so wish. But it's a paint shop. Guess what? They've got glass walls on their paint shop. They designed it with a thin veil of air that's pumped down each of the walls so the paint can never hit the glass. It is remarkable. So the photo I was going to show you relates to this context because there's very high security at McLaren. And when you get past security, it's probably a 700-yard drive before you get dropped off to the entrance to the building. This one morning, I've got a driver and we get 50 yards past security. And I say to the guy, can you stop right now, please? He's startled, but nonetheless stops. And I took the photograph. And the photograph is of this massive long hedge. And next to it is a guy who is the gardener, one of the gardeners. And I mean, this is gobsmacking because he has got a tape measure. He's actually measuring the height of the hedge. I say to people, what's the UGR here? And people will rightly say precision, attention to detail. And I will say that is McLaren. There is such pride in the production plant with these wonderful products that they're able to produce. It is truly, you can feel the pride. And there's actually a tension in the business now because in the time we've been working with them, they've actually had to double their shift because they have not been able to meet demand. They still can't meet demand. And so now there's a tension in the business because the sales and marketing guys are saying, come on, get them out quicker. There's no robots dictating the speed at which these are built. So the guys on the floor say, no, it's got to be right. It's got to be perfect. So that UGR of perfection and attention to detail has even infected the gardeners. When we showed the photograph to the senior exec team at McLaren, the CEO said, Steve, can we have that photo? He didn't even know about this. So what's my point? My point is that the UGRs constitute our culture. And to be able to achieve the kind of, for example, that Jeff was talking about, or safety is an issue in your organisation, to be able to achieve those sorts of goals, the culture underpins all of that. And to understand our culture, we've got to understand our UGRs. And we've got to have our UGRs right in that respect. Now, Nadine, what is UGR? So somebody's asking, what am I saying? UGRs stands for unwritten ground rules, unwritten ground rules. Nadine, can you let me know how much time I've got left?
Yes, Steve, you've got about a minute or so. So if you start,
okay.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
These are extraordinary times, and it's our belief that there has never been a more important time than now to focus on the culture. I was speaking with a senior leader from a large franchise organisation in Australia very recently, and I rang him only to find out how he was. And he said, Steve, it's been a bloodbath. They are the words he used. It's been a bloodbath. They'd had to sack people, get people working from home. So we realised everyone is facing uncertainty, fear and stress right now. So there has never been a more important time to get our culture right. And we want to be focusing on things like transparency, agility, creativity and innovation, and support and care probably being the most important one. Our UGRs need to coalesce around those 4 critical cultural elements to help us navigate through and beyond this crisis. Thanks, Nadine.
Thanks very much, Martin. First up, actually, someone is so impressed with your setup. They're saying, what camera are you using? I know you're expecting that question. I often get these kind of technical questions. Do you know the answer to that? Or is it just
it's a DSLR camera that I'm using. So thanks for the feedback. And
Okay.
what you don't know is we had some glitches. I've got some technical glitches because I had some slides to show you. But anyway, we got through there. So
Yeah,
all
no,
good.
I'm saying you are looking high definition in all its glory. The teeth look gorgeous. I know you polished them especially for us. I think what's really interesting what you're saying, there's unwritten ground rules. Someone wanted clarification on that. I mean, you've seen and done all the pitfalls, the traps, the objections and issues that emerge when people are challenged to probably rethink. They often say the way we do things around here. You've probably heard that phrase so many times. Has there ever been a challenge that you've thought, are we ever going to get them to understand that the unwritten ground rules are the ones that will really drive that culture, but you managed to succeed in the end?
Nadine, I am gobsmacked, and I've been doing this for a long time, more than 30 years. I am gobsmacked by how many unhappy people there are at work. It is so sad that there are so many unhappy people at work. And you know what? It shouldn't be that way. And people do not want it to be that way. So what we've discovered in using UGRs as the vehicle to help understand and improve cultures is that once you start talking real, and that's what UGRs is, once you start talking the real world, people will get on board and we can create immense excitement and turn people 180 degrees. We've seen it happen. Now, it will not happen every time. If the leaders are not serious about this, then you're probably doing more damage than you're probably best to leave UGRs out of it. But if the leaders are serious, we can bring people on board and create a genuine excitement, fighting for a culture that everyone has pride in, and most importantly, protects the great culture. They want to sustain that. It's like being a part of a great team. It seldom occurs, but it's brilliant when it happens.
Indeed. Now, a bit of love coming your way from Chris Harding, wherever he is in the world, or she. Spot on, Steve. Thanks. Another question for you from Ashish is, what are some of the common UGRs that you've come across in family businesses? Oh, that's a niche and insight.
See, Reg specialises in that arena, and so Reg would be an interesting one to speak to about that as well. But you see, there are the standard UGRs, and I have had some work with family companies. So there's an added layer of complexity because we've got the standard UGRs that happen in any collection of people, but then there are family-related UGRs. So family businesses have got to be very wary of the UGRs that are created specific to the family, and it relates to stuff like, do family members get special treatment, for example, or their sacred territory or stuff like that. So I think is massive benefit for family businesses to become more aware of this and try and avoid some of the traps that can bring with it. You know, so yeah, it's a good question.
Because if you get it right, the loyalty and everything that goes with it, but it doesn't necessarily mean just because it's a family business that it's going to be, it's going to be gold. There are so many other factors to take into account, aren't there? Or we could carry on more, but we've got part 2, haven't we? So sending our love to Australia. We'll allow you to stay up for the next couple of hours to listen to the programme. Steve, lovely to have you on board, and give our best to Melbourne as well. I know you were going through another lockdown, so I hope that the city gets through all of that. So challenging times, but it's great that you're there, hopefully steering the ship as well. Steve, lovely to have you.